Hello, so today we're going to walk through and kind of review and talk about my ultimate favorite string library ever. It's a must-have, it's my go-to. Anytime I do anything strings, I layer this over my ensemble patches to add greater realism and greater depth. I love just the flexibility and just the beauty and cleanness of the samples. And so we're going to do a quick walkthrough, a quick review, and just kind of break it down to see if this is really the package for you, because it's not a cheap package. And so if you're going to invest in something like this, you really want to know what you're getting into. I'm not sponsored, I'm a Joe blog, so what you're going to hear is the real deal. I'm not processing any of these sounds, so what you're going to hear is what you're going to get. I'm also going to talk about some of the downsides, some things I really wish they would have, and other things within it that are, on the outside seem great, but if I'm honest, I don't really use them. And so I'll kind of really talk about my use of it, what I love about it, what I don't like about it. But ultimately, this is my favorite string library. It's an older product, but they do continue to update it. It is a larger product as well, and it's not on Spitfire's plugins. It's through Contact, but you can use the free version of Contact to run it, so no need to purchase Contact for this. But let's start off within the actual website, which Spitfire have just updated. I have not seen this new version, so it looks actually really cool. £349. Wait till it's on sale. They're always doing sales, they're always doing promotions. Don't pay for full price. If you are a student, there is a student discount. Just type in student discount Spitfire Audio into Google and you'll find the form to fill in. You need to show some evidence and then they will send you a code to add in at checkout. I believe it is something like 20, 25, around that percentage. I bought this with a student discount back when I was a student, so well worth it. So don't pay $349, although I must admit it is outstanding, it is beautiful. What are you actually getting? So what's actually included? Show all. You're getting all your basic solo instruments. You're getting several violins actually. You're getting the virtuoso, first desk, and progressive. Do I notice much of a difference between them? I veer towards the first desk. You might notice a difference. We'll see as we go through the walkthrough. I think this is going to be eye-opening because I use this more as a I'm on the clock sort of deal, and actually having the time to kind of walk through it and listen to some of these sounds should be interesting. What is nice is the shorts. They have a lot of round robins, I think up to 12. I think the Pitts Spiccatos have like 12 round robins, which is absolutely amazing. I love that. And one thing that is lacking is a bass legato. There is no bass legato. I don't know why. At the same time, would I really use a bass legato? And they do include it on the BBC Symphony Orchestra Pro. But again, I don't veer towards it. So I know it's a downside, but I don't see when I would really use a bass solo, if I'm honest. Beautiful legatos. They have several different sort of legatos, portamento, fingered and bowed. We'll go through those. Other little patches as well, economical stuff. But you can see a nice wide range of articulations, plenty of those to play with. No small amount there. Spec-wise, I know it says here a minimum of 8GB of RAM, but in my experience, when I was using this on an 8GB of RAM or a little off-the-shelf MacBook Pro, it pretty much blew up. It just took up all my RAM. And if you're trying to do a full orchestra and you're putting little bits of details, if I'm honest, you really need 16GB of RAM minimum, really, if you're going to be working with heavy-duty stuff. Storage-wise, 43GB. I use an external SSD. They ask for 87GB, so that's all the details. And of course, Contact Player. Contact or Contact Player, which is the free version, 5.6.8 or higher. Let's stop jittering about all these bits and bobs and actually jump into it and see what's going on. Loving the new website. So let's cut over to Contact, and when you actually open it up, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get this little breakdown here of all the actual instruments, and if we drag and drop one, for example, you'll see all your little articulations there as well. If you actually go into the setting bar, you can turn some of them off to save RAM. You have 3 mic positions on everything. You have the dynamic controller, which fades between the different samples from quiet to loud. Vibrato, extremely important and extremely beautiful on this. You really have the 2 extremes, which you'll see. A release, which can be handy with your longs that are not legatos. Tightness, I don't really touch that if I'm honest. And we see it quite consistently throughout most of the instruments. You'll have these articulations and mic positions. In advanced, you'll see the legato patches. This is where they are. They're not on the main, which I kind of wish they were, because I wouldn't mind going between the legatos and shorts. But the legatos are quite heavy. Again, something they did in the BBC Symphony Orchestra Pro. Everything's there, including the legatos. I don't like the fact they separated them, but it is an older product. You can do just individual articulations, and they're all there if you really want to save space. But they do also, if we back out a bit, have other patches. They have economical versions of some of the patches, which basically breaks them down a bit. But a disadvantage there is you lose some of the round robins as well. But on the, I guess, less powerful laptops, they're quite handy. Extended techniques, your bog standard techniques, other bits and bobs. Okay, let's go into it. So we're going to start off with our Virtuoso violin. And you'll be able to see what I'm doing with my faders. As you can see, they're all moving around there. So I'll be controlling probably not so much the expression, but more so the dynamic and vibrato, because those are the really important ones when it comes to this library. So you can see those wiggling over there on my screen. Vibrato, I have specifically mapped to CC21, and dynamic is CC1. Of course, you can change this and learn new MIDI CCs. That's the great thing of Contact. And you can also stack patches, which is something I kind of miss from Spitfire doing their own plugins, is stacking multiple instruments if you're trying to keep things a bit more concise. So let's first look at these longs. I'm going to turn the release up a bit more, and actually I'll show you why. So if we just play a note, nice little tail end. This is the Decatry mic, but if we put that release even up a bit more, there's just a little bit more, and to me that just gives it a little bit more realism. You can really hear that bow coming off, which I absolutely love. So let's just play a chord. You can also hear the panning that's really to the left, and so they've really positioned these really nicely, and they mix really well together. So that's a Decatry mic, close mic. Very dry, very much up front. And then let's go over to our ambient mic. Really set back, and you can really hear that room. What I love is these three different mic positions. You can really tell the difference of them. Not so much as with the percussion library, which is over here, and we are going to do a whole separate video on that because that is a beautiful library as well, and we'll do a walkthrough review of that. But today we're doing strings. So that's the different mic positions. We'll do another test when it comes to the shorts, but let's just quickly go through these sounds. So these are your long. And of course with our dynamic and vibrato. As you can see, that vibrato, it can get really extreme. And it's really nice in the legatos, and you can really get that soft, silent sound to quite loud. And you can even hear on that sample the bow going backwards and forwards. So it's a really beautiful sample. Consoldino, long consoldinos. So that's those. Lovely tail end, a beautiful room these were recorded in. The flautandos, vibrato doesn't do much here. More subtle. but such a gorgeous, intimate sample that is just dreamy and works so well over those soft moments in film. Now we do have harmonics as well over here. And notice my release is still on the max, so these longs really do come out a bit nicer with that. If we stick it back down there, they do come off a bit sharper, but still nicely. And if you really want a sharp come off, let's just put it back on the longs. Bit harsh, but I like turning it up. So that's those. Let's look at our long progressive, which actually I really like. It's basically self-evolving, so the vibrato really doesn't do anything at all because it's naturally it naturally puts the vibrato into the sample. And I did this piece. It was a full orchestral piece, but I wanted this beautiful soaring solo violin over the top, and I did it with a legato patch, and I actually first accidentally did it with a long progressive and thinking it was the legato just because I was in quite a bit of a rush. And then when I realized that, I was like, oh, quickly changed it over to a legato patch, but then realized I didn't like the legato patch with that melody. I really wanted it to be a bit more, I guess, stabby, less portamento sort of deal, less legato-y, more oomph, oomph, oomph. And this patch worked really well in that context for this solo melody. So you can hear that natural reverb. I'm not touching anything. The dynamic does do something, but you naturally have so it's not quite legato, but for longer notes where you have less time, it naturally puts that reverb in for you. Beautiful. And finally, sol pont. There's your sol pont. And now for the shorts, as we can see, actually you can see for all of them, it does come up with how many round robins here. So actually, in all honesty, I don't know how many round robins these longs have, but I do know the shorts. For this one, we can see the staccato, we have 4. For the spiccato, we have 8. Was I wrong in saying 12? That might be orchestral tools. No, 8. I gave them too much credit. It was orchestral tools that has one that has 12 in their solo patch. So let's go back here. I'll be really intrigued to actually compare the difference between these 3 violins, because I don't know if there's much difference. So let's quickly just go through the 3 different microphones. And of course, normally you probably mix the 3 together. You won't use them separately so much. So you can hear that's right up and close. And of course, if you don't want to kind of get into that, there is a nice little thing close and far that controls the microphone. So if we go super close, and a little helpful tips thing, let's close this bubble. And you can see it automatically does it there. So if we want a nice middle sound or something like that, and there you go. It mixes it for you. So there's that nice little AI there that can help you. Lots of dynamic layers, lots to work with, a nice forte, a nice pianissimo. And then a beautiful space with that reverb as well. Let's put in a nice mic at the back. So I wouldn't really suggest using it on its own unless this is a sound you want. But you have this beautiful space and you're not needing a reverb. You can use the natural space of the room this was recorded in. And so that's your staccatos. And I'm going to put that one up and that one back down for the purpose of this. And let's go back to our spiccatos. So much sharper. Very realistic. Very realistic. Lots of round robins, lots of flexibility. You've got your mic positions. Absolutely stunning. And quickly move on. Pizzicato. What's nice is this one will leap to this patch. When we see a little arrow there on the screen next to the pizz, it will jump to the pizzo bartok if we hit it hard enough. But generally, very beautiful. And there's your pizzicato bartok, if you hit it properly hard. And I believe there is a slightly different version of that as well. I could be on the cello actually. There's a slightly different version, I believe. But we'll get there. Corlegno. You can get some beautiful arps going with Corlegno, and you can really hear the difference in dynamic there through velocity. Dynamic and vibrato I tend to not touch with the shorts because they are velocity sensitive and you don't really need them, and well, you're not going to put a vibrato on a short, so it doesn't kind of exist for that sort of patch. But that's your Corlegno. Beautiful. Short harmonics. Is that useful to you? I never use it. Brushed bartok. I never use the... But if you're writing maybe something more classical, they're shorts, it's another option there. Tremolos, I use these a lot, and this is where dynamic is really important. For building tension and the close mic, actually, I just want to show this off, and I'm going to put a little bit of decatry in there as well, because this is gorgeous. You can really hear that close. Raw sound, and it's stunning, absolutely gorgeous. I love the tremolo on the solos. Trills. Major trills and minor trills. They have their uses now and then. I tend to kind of stick to basics, but if you want to put little details in, there you have it. Let's put in our first desk and really have a listen to see what difference are we going to notice. So now we can see both. Let's solo the top one first, and we're just going to change this to Omni MIDI, so we're playing both of them. And listen to the shorts here, that's spiccatos specifically, and then we're going to listen to the spiccatos down here. I should also change it to the same mic position. Okay, good. And then let's solo the one down here. There is a bit of a difference. Let's try staccatos. There is quite a bit of a difference, a notable difference. Well, there you have it. I am wrong. That's not unusual. Just ask my wife. Okay. It's there we go. And then let's solo this one. Well, there you have it. They are different. And finally, I'm going to just do a comparison with the progressive one. We're going to completely change the virtuoso one and compare it with the first desk and really see. Let's just go straight in with the shorts. I'm not going to go through every single button, every single violin patch, because it's going to get quite repetitive, and I want to make this video as short and concise as possible. So let's solo. We've got the same mic positions, spiccatos. I put spiccatos because I think they are a good telltale. The timbre is definitely slightly different, so you are getting some variation between the different violins. So you can kind of pick what sort of timbre you like, what sort of sound, which one's your favourite, really kind of mess around with them yourselves, have a look. You can really see the difference. As I said, the close mic sounds very close, decatry nice in the middle, the ambient mic is at the back. So, you know, we've gone through all these sounds, they're pretty consistent throughout. It's slightly different timbres. So let's move on to the viola, so we're not kind of stuck with just our violins. And then we'll look at the legatos afterwards when we finish going through the instruments. So let's very quickly kind of float through these. We're going to just look at the close mic quickly with these longs. So you can already see the positioning in comparison with the violins. This is more central. And we're going to just do the decatry. And then let's use our final mic. Concertina. And let's just stick with our decatary for the rest of these, because they're pretty consistent throughout when it comes to mics. And that's that. Long harmonies. Vibrato doesn't do much. Tremolos, or long progressive, sorry. Salpont. Quite a nice ghostly sound now. Our shorts, which are four round robins, 8 round robins, 4 for the staccato. And so beautiful forte, nice and sharp. And then here is our spiccato. Another beautiful sound with 8 round robins, and of course all our different microphones. We'll just do a little example with a close and a bit of decatary. Bit more decatary. What I find useful with these, especially when you've got maybe a full orchestra, the close mic is really useful to just put this slightly more on top, a bit closer than some of those ensemble patches to really bring it out. So maybe on its own, it may sound a bit awkward, but when mixed in with the full orchestra, absolutely beautiful and stunning. Pizzicato. Oh, and we are missing the flautando for the viola. I do not know why. It's very strange. But that is one thing I thought a bit weird, because it's with the cello and the violins and maybe even with the bass, but we've not got no flautando for the viola. Bit odd. Right, let's turn up that and have a listen to our pizzicatos. And the same thing, if we hit them hard, get that nice buttock. Plenty of different layers in there. So a lot of fun, very realistic, and absolutely gorgeous. Collegno. Nice and scratchy in the back. It is naturally a soft sound simply because of the way it's performed. You know, you can't really make a loud collegno. Of course you can turn it up, but do you really want to? But you can give that a really nice, close, scratchy. So beautiful sound to play with. Our short harmonics, if that's your sort of thing. Of course, brushed bartok. And here's a mandolin pizz. I knew we had some different pizzas. So just a slightly different sort of pizzicato when we compare it. It's a bit more plucky. This one's more padded, this one's more mandolin-like, as the name would suggest. Tremolos. Let's go into those. Great for building tension. Highly recommend. And then moving on to our trills. They are there. And major and minor. So that is the viola. I think there's nothing else to mention with that so far. Let's quickly move on to the cello and go through some of those articulations and just show you the mic positions. Then we've got the bass. Then we've got to do our legatos. So cello, here's our longs. And if we actually move over here and look at the different mic positions, this is the close mic. And again, you can hear the panning hard right. Add in a bit of our decatry. And then finally our ambient. And again, we can move that release to make it sound a little bit more real with the longs. But really, we're going to leave sort of passages almost like that for your legato patches. So, con sol D now. Let's just leave on the decatry. You could hear the different positions there. You could hear how close and intimate and how dry some are comparatively and hear the room. So we're not going to go into those again. That's Carl Saldina, flautando. Again, I love. It's a very soft, beautiful patch that I wish wasn't so vibrato-y, but we can't control that. But it is what it is. Longs are long harmonics. They're there if you want to use them. Long progressive. And of course our dynamic. For those lazy days when we don't want to use the vibrato fader, sol pont. Nice and chaotic. Scratchy, slightly pitchy, fun, maybe like a pirate sort of song track. Right, shorts. Again with the round robins, 4 and 8, staccato, spiccato. Lots of dynamic layers there to play with. But my go-to is more the spiccatos, if I'm honest, more round robins. And a beautiful space. I love the decatry, but don't be afraid, don't not use the close and ambient. Of course, mixing it into your piece. I just start off with decatry, and then depending where I want each instrument, maybe I want the violin to come out more, maybe I want the cellos to be a little bit further back, mix accordingly. Right, pizzicato, we have something very similar with everyone else. Goes to the Bartok. Beautifully sampled, 4 round robins, absolutely gorgeous. And Collegno. That mousy, scratchy, nice little sound. And of course we can, if you really want to bring it out more, there is a volume knob on the top of contact. Let's look next at our short harmonics. Sounds almost flute-like. There. Brushed Bartoks that I probably only used once when I was doing a very classical piece. Tremolos, I love the low end of these actually. You get that really rich bassy scratch right there on the bottom. Really good for building tension, especially if we put this ambient mic on right here and just kind of fade it in. With a timpani roll or something, oh, a lot of tension there, and gorgeous. And then our trills for when you need this function, really. They're there. For when you need them. So that is the cello. Let's move finally onto the bass, and then we will go into our legatos and total performance, which you get with this. Okay, so what do we have? Missing the flautando. No, we do have the flautando, so it's only the viola we don't have the flautando for. And we don't have a legato, remember that, for the bass. But then trying to think of ever a time I would use it. Let's mess around with this. Right, dynamic and vibrato. I notice the vibrato a lot less with the bass, but you do have this really nice low note. There's definitely a slight difference. Let's look at the mic positions. I think we might actually just save those till our shorts, because that's really what brings them out. Flautando. Quite ghostly, very quiet. I was doing some different notes, but it's a little more subtle with this one. We have our long, ghostly harmonics, which is probably the most usable, I feel, out of all the other patches. Because it has this wind-like, very resiny. And for a long harmonics, I would never really have thought of normally using them, but after listening to that patch, that's really, it can inspire a couple of pieces. Beautiful harmonics there. Long progressive. I prefer that one to the longs because the vibrato is a lot more evident. Sol pont. Scratchy, fun to use. And now our shorts. Staccatos. Let's quickly look through our mic positions as well. That's shorts with the close mic, decatry. Ambient. Really get a sense of the space there. And beautiful spiccatos. There you go. Great for just doing that octave lower than your cellos and that bass part and whatever you'd normally use your double bass for. Oh, I love the Bartok, pizzicato Bartok actually with the double bass. It's really a nice twang and can be used for those jump scares. A fun patch to play with, the pizzicatos with the double bass, and then our short harmonics. Bartok, brushed Bartok. I never use them, and then pizzicato undampened. So I guess if you want a bit more of a pizzicato sound without kind of accidentally hitting that one, you can just go for this one, and it's a bit more of a sound. These tremolos are gorgeous. A great tension builder. nice, low, rumbly. Trills, if you ever really need to use them in the bass. That's the double bass. Let's move on to our other patches. So if we go down here, advanced, and go into legato, and let's start with just the plain ones, not the total performers. So you only have, I guess, 2 violins, but technically 1, because the other one's a total performance patch, which is a bit of everything. So the beauty of these legato patches, there's 3 different things within them. There's legato, portamento, and bowed. Depending how you actually play and how hard you press between notes will depend which it automatically selects. So if I, say, hit a D, and then move very softly onto an A, you'll get a portamento. If I do it in the middle, I'll get a fingered. If I do it hard, I'll get a bowed. And you can get so much realism with your melody line with this. And of course, the vibrato and dynamic have quite a big impact on this as well. And there you have it, and that's with the decatry. If we mix in some close mic, really in your ear, up front and center. And then go for our ambient mic. Let's take these off. Back of the room. And so that's the different mic positions, that's the different sounds, so you really can get everything from absolutely in your face to right back out there with that beautiful reverb to more in the middle. So 3 mics, you don't need more than that with this patch, and plenty of different techniques to really expand upon and make it sound as real as humanly possible. Viola legato, we will see a very, very similar, if not the exact same setup, but of course with this patch, this instrument instead. And so let's just play. And quickly listen to the different microphones, but we are going to do it this way instead. A very Schindler's List sort of sound. Let's go for a more middle sound. And then let's go for a very far away, which of course is just going to stick that mic on. So that's a useful tool if you don't really want to mess, or if you just want, I want a close middle and you're kind of stuck. Yeah, there's this useful tool. So that's that. Let's move on to the cello legato. Exact same sort of setup, 3 different microphones, 3 different, I guess, articulations within the legato range. And let's play. I absolutely love the cello legato. This is actually my go-to. And just a quick look at the different microphones, of course, super close. And these are all panned as well, as you can hear. Super in your ear. Decatry we've already heard. Ambient right at the back. Mind my awful playing. If anything, it reveals more of the beauty of the sample than my playing skills. So that's the different mic positions, that's the different sounds, that's all the legatos. The final thing we're going to talk about, so we've gone through all the instruments, we've gone through the legatos, is the total performers. Now there's two, there's the cello and there's the violin. Total performer is quite literally the patch I guess we all dream of, is everything in one. No need to select different articulations. It's sit down and play. Now this kind of relies on you actually being able to play an instrument, really. Well, I should say the piano, because it's basically turning your keyboard into a violin, and depending how you play would depend how it sounds. You have the mic positions. There's the articulations are automatically chosen between shorts and longs, I think. Well, you can actually hear it. 8 round robins, I think that's specifically for the shorts. We can have the mute on or off, and of course the dynamic and vibrato are still very important. So let's just play and I'll show you what I mean, because it will go between the longs and the shorts. But in all honesty, I don't really use this patch much at all, because firstly, I'm not the best keyboard player in the world, and I find it a little bit awkward at times and unpredictable, at least in my opinion. This might be perfect for other people. So let's have just play. Oh, and something I should note, the vibrato actually, if you go right at the bottom, it does that, like a tremolo effect. There we go. So, thought I'd add that. That's a cool little thing. But there you have it. You can play longs, you can play shorts. You have a lot more breathing room to really mess around and be almost creative with this patch and hit record and play over an accompaniment. We do have the mic positions as well. So this is an honest demonstration of a guy who can kind of play the keyboard, messing around with this. As I said, it's a lot harder, I feel, to get stuff out of it. I try and do a mix of recording and working within the MIDI. So with some fine tuning, you could get a lot out of this. So that's that. If you want, there's a cello one as well. There was a big demand for it for a while. I got this back when this wasn't a thing, and they added the cello to it, which is great, I guess. Never really used, as I said, I kind of stick with the legatos, individual articulations and patches and stuff. But there is a version for, and of course we have this little beauty here as well. So let's quickly mess with this. I actually really don't like it that. Let's go more like that, which I'm betting is... Why is it all close? Is that broken? Well, there you have it. It is buggy. Let's reload the patch and see if that fixes it. So if I want a far away sound, put it on far. Okay, Spitfire audio, we have a problem. Hopefully that's not the case for you, but it's technology, it has bugs, there is nothing wrong with us. Let me see if I just do that and then change that if that does anything. Nope, we have a bug. Great. Okay, let's do that. And let's turn the mute on. The vibrato is a bit more sensitive than the other total performer. You have to be right at the end. This one, it's more of a, I wouldn't say a gradual fade, but it did come out a lot later than the product itself. So that's the Total Performance cello, badly played by me, which, as I've said before, hopefully brings out the quality of the samples for an average Joe, or maybe someone who's not as skilled as maybe Christian Henson and Paul Thompson when it comes to performing. So an honest show of the sounds. So that's everything, I believe. That's the legato patches. Of course, you can mess around with the other patches as well. The economical ones are very handy for lower RAM computers. As you can see up here, this is kind of the RAM usage. Don't know if you can actually see that, but for the economical patch, you are losing out on some round robins. So the shorts are down to 2. Actually, all of them are down to 2 round robins, but 158 megabytes that's going to take up. While if you actually look at the Total Performer, and like the cello one, for example, I think that was 1.2 gigabytes of RAM used just by that patch alone. Well, depends on your mics as well. Bog standard, just one mic, 0.6, so half a gigabyte, really just over. But if you want a couple mics mixed in, it's, 2 is 1.2, and if I add a third, I bet we're nearly at 2 gigabytes of RAM, 1.84. So the more mics, of course, the more samples. Of course, the more samples, great, but the more RAM that's going to be taken up, and the more that's going to RAM your computer. So you've got to be a little bit careful of that, which is why there's the economical patches. Turn off things that you're not using. But honestly, I love it. The Total Performers sound great in practice, but when they can be a bit unpredictable, and I prefer kind of the control I have over the legatos and the individual articulations, really. Even just flicking between the shorts and longs, you can make articulation sets. I've done a whole video on that as well, so you can specifically make an articulation set for this patch, or for all these patches, I guess, which I have done, which would be very useful when you load the big patches. If not, I just use single articulations if I just want some shorts to go over my ensemble ones. But this has been Spitfire Solo Strings, my favorite string library. I absolutely love it. The realism, the quality, the amount of round robins. It's a gem. And I love it, and I love using it. Anytime I use strings, this is what I will use. Probably because I don't actually have much else. But I've looked around, I shopped around, I've done my research, and I've had this almost since the beginning of my journey as a composer, and it's not put me wrong yet. And of course, I use alongside the BBC Symphony Orchestra Pro. But I always turn to this instead of the solos that I get with the Pro version of that. I just love the mic positions, just how concise, and just the vibrato is just something else with this one. So I hope you haven't minded my bad playing. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and supporting me. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has kind of shown you a bit of in-depth knowledge of what you're going to really get out when you actually purchase this and spend the big dollar on it. But thank you so much. I will see you in the next video.